Welcome to Visibility by Design podcast with your host, Juliette Stapleton. In this show, I want to help you combine your marketing strategies and your human design potential so you can show up, stand out, and attract your perfect clients with confidence and ease. Are you ready? Enjoy the show. Hi guys, welcome back to Visibility by Design with your host, Juliette Stapleton, and my guest today, human design and astrology expert, Erin Esser. Welcome to the show. This way I should point. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Juliette. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Me too, because we have so much to discuss today. And guys, tune in, whether you are new to human design, whether you have been, tipping your toes into human design. We want to talk about particularly G Center today and how this can affect you and, your drive to be in new environments and all sorts of things like that. I find all those things fascinating. I'm an open G Center. For those of you who maybe don't know me, I'm a splenic projector, 1-3 open G center, not completely open, undefined, I should say, if you know the linguistics. So that means I have a few gates sticking out of there. And Erin is a manifesting generator, emotional authority 6-2, and also has an open G center. Mm-hmm. What does this whole thing, for those who don't know at all, what are we referring to here?
Well, the open G is, every center, we're 9-centered beings, right? And every center has a theme around it. And the G center has 2 different themes, which is love and direction. So it's all centered around our environment. It's people we're around, where we're going in our life. If we feel loved, how we feel loved, how we're being shown loved, how we receive love, all of those things. Are we going to look for love? Are we looking for our direction? And whether we have a defined G or undefined G or a completely open G will dictate how we are to kind of navigate through this energy.
This is fascinating because, with the direction, even though, as I mentioned, I have an open G center. So when you start learning about your design in human design, sometimes when you come to reading about especially open centers, the information can be kind of upsetting, especially if you're going into the source and the whole the language that the creator or the founder of human design, Ra, uses, and it's a bit disempowering. It's like you don't have your direction, you don't have your you're always looking for love. And that was true to me in the up until I was 27. I was actively non-projectorily looking for love, constantly trying to initiate. I was getting such a pushback a lot. There was a lot of things that were wrong until I completely gave up, and then my second half appeared literally within a month. But with the sense of direction, funnily for me, I always felt like I never had a sense of direction that I could say, okay, this is where I'm going, this is what's going to happen. I, however, always had a very strong pull, I would use the word.
Yeah.
Would you identify with that as well, having an open G center?
Yeah, and it's the one thing too that was so beneficial for me to understand about G center, and I have 3 kids as well too, and looking at their centers and their G center, it's just that our identity will be shaped by who we're around, the environment that we're in. So how our direction in our life and where we think we're going, right? Or where we're going, actually where we are going, is going to be dictated by the environment that we put ourselves in with an open G. So if we're around people that maybe have no sense of direction in their life, right? They don't know how to lead themselves. They don't know how to show up for themselves. They're just, we're going to embody that because we're taking all of that energy in, right? Remember, with undefined centers and open centers, we're taking all that energy and then we're amplifying it back. If we're around people though, that, they have a good sense of direction, they are, their walk and talk is different, right? Than different. We're going to emulate that. So even if you're a parent with someone with an open G, pay attention if your child is maybe starting to come home with different behaviors, different language that maybe you don't like, don't punish them. Take a look at their environment. Take a look at their friends. You change their environment, you will change how they show up in life. So yeah, that was huge for me. And I had to really get, I want to say picky really about my environments. And I had to get really clear on where I felt good, where I didn't feel good, which people, when I was around certain people, how do I feel? Where do I want to be? Because we can go with open G's, we can do whatever we have. Like, it's variable, right? We can like be on different paths, but it's like, where do I want to go? Where do I feel good? Where do I feel loved? Right? Where do I feel nurtured? And as on this path, where am I able to show up for me in the highest way too? So there's so many questions that we can ask ourselves within this center, but that was part of the process that I went through.
I can really relate, because especially I was growing up and I was trying myself. I was always a loner. Maybe it's a projector thing, but I wanted to be part of the groups. In my in my class, in my school, we had predominantly girls, and they were all in groups of 2, 3. So I was trying to kind of hang out with one group and the other, and I was kind of testing them on how I can. And yes, I was part of these groups. They kind of accepted me, although I was not the core. I was still somewhere on the peripheral. But they felt comfortable around me. But for me, what I really, over the course of my life, I realized it doesn't matter that I can be around different people. Sometimes it just doesn't feel right. Sometimes you really see that they don't see you. And
especially as a projector too, right?
Especially as a projector. And I remember once, I was probably about 12 when I said, what am I doing? Every morning I went outside my building block and I thought, okay, which group am I going to walk to school with today? Which direction am I going to go today? And one day I just said to myself, I'm just heading off to school. School was 10 minutes away. I'm just going on my own. And I remember walking on my own, and with my corner of my eyes, I saw one of the couples, and they were like, why did you not come to us? And I was like, no, I'm independent. I'm going on my own. It's my own thing now.
Yeah.
Because, sooner or later, you kind of feel like this is just a very terrible exercise. And later on in life as well, the same thing as you said, is just not noticing the people that you're around. Yes, you can be as nice and friendly and open to them, but if it's a wrong environment for you, no way you're going to be happy. No way they're going to see your true value. Absolutely. No matter what type you are, and make you feel very lonely while you're part of the group. Or even as I had in some of the workplace when I was still in work environment, which really doesn't work for me for some reasons. But, I was in a situation where I thought I'm so friendly and I am so, so easygoing with people. And they would be saying to me, you have a wall around you. And I couldn't understand what's going on, but it was just wrong people. So obviously there was, on my behalf, I wouldn't be opening up fully. And this whole thing, but it's not just the people as well, because I know you have a story about moving from one place to another.
Oh yeah. So it's environment as well too. And so if you have an open G, or if you know someone with an open G, it is so critical to, well, I'm going to give a little background. So if you have an open G, generally, you're probably going to like changing your environment a bit. Like you might be the one that you come home and you're like, I'm going to change up my living room a little bit. I'm going to move the furniture around. I'm going to, get a new pillow or a new color scheme. And, however it is, you always are needing this like kind of, you need to feel stimulated by the environment that you're in. And so you'll move things around and you'll change things up. So sometimes that can come with like, I want to move, like, I want to move environments. I want to move apartments, or I want to move homes, whatever that is. And so I've had experience with different ways of doing this, because human design is an experiment. We have to experiment. We have to understand what doesn't work and then do something different to see like, oh, that works so much better. So it's, going to looking for direction, looking for love. So direction is also to environment, like, right? Like, oh, what environment do I need to be in? Well, with that, so say you're looking for a new apartment, say you're moving and you have an open G, go to that apartment, go to that house more than once. You have to be in that environment more than one time. So go during the morning, go during the evening, go during rush hour, right? Like where traffic is going to be different, go during different lighting times of the day, because you will be impacted by different shifting in the environment at different times of the day. Go with someone with a defined G, so they can be your sounding board, so to speak. So they can ask you questions, not tell you what to do, not tell you if they like it or not, but they can ask you questions. How do you feel in this environment? Do you feel good in this environment? Do you feel, so that you can tune into going, okay, like, because what you're doing is you're taking in the whole environment, and you can't get that in just one time. And so I've done that before, where I'm like, I wanted to get out of, oh my gosh, when I was in Asheville, I wanted to get out of this one apartment we were in and go moving into a house. And we did. I thought I could skirt around it. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to manipulate this. I'm going to get somebody else I want to look for something, but I'm going to get somebody else to field my search and go searching and go looking. And then they'll give it to me. And then I can go look at the house. Right. So that doesn't work. So because it's like, I was still searching, I was still going out searching. My energy was trying to find the correct environment versus allowing it to come into my field and then responding as a generator and going, oh, that would be cool. Right. So if I'm going searching for it, and then so that's the first thing that I did that was incorrect for myself. And then secondly, I only was at the house one time for like maybe 15 minutes. And it was kind of a pressure situation. There was other people looking at it, and I had to decide literally within like the hour. And I knew deep down, I knew I should have just probably said, no, I'm going to wait. And especially being emotionally defined as well too. But I didn't. And I didn't ask to go back at a different time. We're like, yeah, we'll take it. Well, it was an okay, but I mean, it wasn't like harmful in any way that I know of, but it just didn't feel good. The whole year we were there, we were only there for a year. And it was like, I couldn't wait to move out. I couldn't wait to find something different. I couldn't wait. It was like, so pay attention. Like if you're moving, go to the environment more than once. Same thing with even like restaurants, people you're around. You're not going to get that you don't have to make a decision right now. And you shouldn't actually, if you're have an open G, because you need to go more than once. So you need to check it out in different energies, like the morning, the night, the afternoon, with different people, all of those things. So does that make sense?
Actually it does, although I am thinking that I'm trying to take what you're describing and put my experiences in the exact similar situations.
Yeah.
And maybe being splenic authority, maybe the authority has a lot to play here too.
Sure. Yeah.
Because with me and my splenic authority, I have, and also I'm a 1-3, so I make a lot of mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes for doing things for wrong reasons. And I have, when I lived in Ireland and we lived in Dublin, which I was okay. There was a lot of good things happened to me in Dublin itself when I lived there. But then my husband was from Dublin and he just really hated it. And he wanted to live down the country where he would go in the summer as a child. So he had a lot of romantic, associations. His family had a mobile home on the sea. So he had these romantic things. And we went there on Christmas and he was just saying, oh, I'd love to live here, this bloody Dublin and blah, blah, blah. Within a week, I just went in, I arranged it. I found a house, we moved in. Then in a year, we saw another house and we put the offer on it and we bought the house. I never even checked with myself how I felt being there. And when I moved there and suddenly I found myself 100 kilometers away from a big city in a very small isolated community, an outsider, foreigner, and someone who is very different generally from people. So it's hard even in a big place for me to get, my soulmates. The internet is my savior in that respect. And so that, and it took a couple of years of being shocked, but then for 15 years I lived down there and I suffered so much from being so misaligned. And at the end, before we moved to Tallinn, Estonia, where I'm originally from, my husband wanted to move here. So we moved here. But just before that, I remember how it was really palpable energy of being so misaligned. And I just knew that it's like I had my hands tied, everything that I wanted to do. It just wasn't the environment and the people. And I felt like I was pulled in all the time. But
Mm.
I'm making decisions looking for the apartment here in Tallinn. I actually got my sister to call people because there's a different language here as well. I was a bit shy. I was like, okay, can you go look for for apartments? And we sent her a couple of, and this was the first apartment, the one that I'm here now. This was the first apartment that replied to her, and she got a viewing, and she came in, and thank God again for the internet. She was there with a WhatsApp video call showing us everything. And I just went for it straight away. And we're here now. It's the third year now that we're in here. So, it's kind of, but I agree with, it was a right decision how I feel.
Yeah.
I do know that there's some moments sometimes when, yes, I'm having regrets that I didn't look further, but the energy of the apartment and the address, I have 222 in my address.
Nice.
I was like, you have arrived. You're here now. I grew up in the house number 11, so which was like doors to the new world. And now I'm here. So I'm kind of still buzzing from this. And of course, there's a big road here and there's loads of things to say. It's not my apartment, all these kind of things. But my decisions were made just in the moment. I just knew with my body.
I'm curious, before you moved into this apartment, right, that you're in right now, you were in Estonia, right? And you were
No, we were in Ireland.
You were in Ireland.
Literally in Ireland. We had 2 weeks to move out of our house and literally that was tickets.
And we just you didn't like.
And it was a place we didn't like. We lived there for 15 years. We didn't like. I had to work on a lot of forgiving myself for not liking the house I was in, because it did give us a home for 15 years, and all these kind of things. But it was something like, I just want the perfect apartment to come to me. Yeah. And in a way, it just, everything was falling into place, and it came in. And my sister, who's a generator, she came in and I said, okay, so how, yes or no? I gave her a yes or no question. And she said, yeah, I feel it. Obviously it's a rental accommodation, and some things maybe not as perfect, but actually it's great, and it's brilliant location and all these kind of things. And when I came here, I was like, wow, so, but the feeling.
I love that though, because it's really like pointing to always going back to our strategy and authority as well too, right? So no matter what centers, like our strategy and authority trump everything, right? And so I am emotional, so I do need to take my time, and I didn't take my time, right? You, that splenic, that intuitive hit, that in the now for the now, like right now, like served you well, right? Where you were like, okay, and you were invited in, right? You had your sister, and then she invited you to see the place, right? The person like set up the time. You said it's the only one that, and as you were like actually like invited in to like see it, whether it was through WhatsApp or whatever, but yeah. So, I mean, those are all the steps, right? Like your strategy and authority as a projector as well too. So, I think that's the thing, like we're never going to live this perfectly. It's just, but it's always going back to the strategy and authority, and it's experimenting, and it's going back and going, okay, where am I right now? And grounding into that space within ourselves. And, with an open G, it can feel confusing at times. Like, I don't know if you feel this, but, and, you said too earlier in this, that there's like a kind of a time where you're kind of humbled. I don't know if that's the exact word that you use, but like, it's like, oh, okay. Like I have this, how do I want to work with this energy? And when I've learned I had an open G, one of the things that I had to grieve was a question I always had for myself was, who am I? Right. That's a question that a lot of people have, right? Who am I? And what I remember actually laying in my bed one day and I was like, oh my gosh, I have an open G. I'm never going to know really who I am. Like, and I was so like sad by that until I realized like, oh, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It's that I am a chameleon. I can be different shades of myself depending on the energies I'm around, depending on the people I'm around, the environments I'm around. And so then the question becomes, who do I want to be?
Yes.
And how empowering is that, right? Like I can choose this. I don't have a fixed identity, right? But I can tune in, and, I'm a brilliant coach and I do astrology and human design, as and it's like, so if you have an open G, it's like you have the ability to understand and see somebody else's identity and understand them sometimes more than they even understand themselves, especially if they have a defined G. And so then, and then that's amplified. And then we can give that, like, I mean, open Gs make the best therapists, make the best coaches, make the best, because we understand that we're taking all this energy in and we're becoming it almost around that person. The key is just not to get attached to different identities that we're coming into contact with, so that we can say, okay, wait, no, who am I now? That's right. How do I want to be? So we can turn it around into an empowering question, and that's what I had to do for myself.
I can totally relate. And again, when you start learning, especially with human design, I didn't feel like this with any of, and I've always been into, personality profiling and horoscopes and astrology, not too deep in astrology, as in doing natal charts or anything. I didn't go as far. I was like waiting to see my own thing, but I've never had this disempowering thoughts that I had with human design. Like, oh my God, I have a completely open ego center. I don't have willpower. I will never make money, or things like that. Or with open G, you have no direction in life. And I'm like, how am I no direction in life if I knew from the age of 3 years old, I'm going to go abroad, marry a foreigner and fetch him back and, marry a music producer. I kept saying that as a child. Everybody was laughing, and all that happened. I had a direction, I had a calling. So, and especially with, who am I? And I think that obviously as we grow older, this is a question that, maybe comes up to every one of us with the open G. But what big empowering moment for me was that I actually have a very deep sense of who I am, especially, in my age now, I'm 45. So for the last 5 years, definitely in my 40s, that's not a question. It's more about a question is like, what's my next big vision? I often tell my clients, they ask me about the selfies that I make, I'm about the visual representation sometimes, because, I'm just an ordinary woman, but I have this different view who I could be. So I create that with a selfie and a little post-production and, pretend I'm on the cover of a magazine or something, although not necessarily. And then I grow into that because I just claimed in the world, this is going to be my next vision. And so, and that like a caterpillar, then you kind of filling those shoes. But it's great because it gives you so much freedom. If you don't have something rigid and this is just the way you are, then you're free to pivot, you're free to change your image, you're free to move things around, change your logo as many times as you want. And it's not because you're a perfectionist or something, it's just because, well, it's like the furniture. I just want something.
Got to change it up a little bit, we needed excitement in that environment, and that's the thing, like with an open G, like it's fun to have an exciting environment, like, and that's where we feel good, so it's like creating that and listening, like, ooh, I feel good, right? Like I feel good right now. Like you can listen to your spleen in your environment of like, oh, yep, this is it, right? I can listen to my sacral and be like, oh yeah, like I lean into my environment, like, oh yes, like it just lights up, my whole body. So it's like when we get in touch with who we are deep down within that space, then our open centers, all of the not self themes that come up, within these open centers start to, I guess some of the fears start to go away a little bit. We start to trust ourselves a little bit more, because, that's the thing too with an open G, with any open center, I teach a class called Foundations of Human Design. And one of the things I tell them is all of our open centers. So we're talking about the G center today. The theme is love and identity, right? And so these open centers, we have these not self themes. These are where we're highly conditioned, right? Highly programmed, from in the womb, potentially even ancestral, there's just a lot of conditioning, the world, just family, environment, culturally, all of these things. And what happens within our open centers is they start to these stories, so that we start to tell ourselves, am I lovable? Oh, I must not be lovable. Oh, I have to go look for love. Oh, what is my direction? So we're like trying to push down walls, trying to find love, trying to find our direction, right? And so then we're telling ourselves stories really in our mind, because any open center, the not self theme, if we're not deconditioning, consciously deconditioning, our mind then is making up stories in our head around, I'm not lovable. I don't have a direction. So I have to go find it right now. And then we act from that space. And this is the unconscious, like space that we can get in. And this is when we meet resistance in our life. And then we meet like, oh my God. And then we start to, then all these stories we're telling ourselves, we get to relive them again, because yeah, the more we're going to look for love and like pound down the door of love, like, it will come. It will come. We just have to trust that, right? But we have to love ourselves in the process, right? Again, it's about love. How are we loving ourselves, right? How are we? And it's like a journey of loving ourselves, because then we're not going to go look for it thinking that now I'm going to be loved because somebody loves me. No, that's so not what it is, right? And same thing with direction, like, oh, I must have a direction, or I'm lost in this world. No, that's not what it means, And so being aware of the stories that this center, if it's open, is telling the mind, and therefore then acting from it or speaking from it, right? Because we speak into, a whole other topic, but the throat center then speaks out we manifest then from that. So what are we communicating out? So be careful of the stories about the lovability and the direction and the identity that might be, stirring around in there that your mind is picking up on and then wanting to act from. So that's huge, like huge, huge, huge. So
the whole process of deconditioning, and it might seem like, okay, I've worked on this, I'm fine now, but it keeps coming back. It just always keeps coming back. And you said constantly deconditioning, because, the brain is sort of like just sitting there waiting. Okay, when can I put my 2 cents in here? And it will, if you let it. And I've had these spirals. I know when I moved here to Tallinn, I had this, what my sister called post-move trauma release, where, first it was all great. And then after a couple of months, it was like, what just happened? And it's everything stopped. And it was just, there was just so much going on. And I know how so many things came back where I thought I've already cleared myself of these insecurities, and they came back like an avalanche. It was a really weird time for me. And yet, it's just the awareness is the first tool in a way to give yourself a permission, to, okay, have them and then work through it again. And then every time it becomes easier and easier. And I know that in terms of giving yourself a permission, when I came across human design, I said, this is a permission to be you. And now I see that in so many people. And even when we were discussing what topics can we talk about on this podcast, and he said, giving permission to be ourselves in our businesses, relationships, exercise. This is why I sort of really love human design over most of the modalities and other practices and other concepts and the ways to explain things, because with there is no limitation. It's not like you're bad at detail, you're good at this, you're bad at this, you're good at this. It's sort of like you have an openness here. This is what it means. This is how you can actually work through that. Be aware of this, and this. Yes. But you can do that. What is your take on this? Would you agree with what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel that it's empowerment at the foundational level, because we understand what our blueprint is, how we're designed, right? It's like the architect in a home, right? If we go in and we find the blueprints of a home, right, that we're living in. And I did this at our home years ago. We found in the basement, in the like rafters or whatever you call it, old the architecture, all the blueprints or whatever.
The blueprints.
And I remember thinking, okay, here's the blueprints of this home, right? You can relate it to human design. If an architect draws up the blueprints, right? But then the construction crew goes in. And so it's like, I don't like this here. So we're going to move this over here and this over here and this support beam over here, because I really don't like the look of that. I want to be over here, right? I want this, right? So then all of a sudden there's this whole distortion, and then walls aren't standing up the way they need to be. It doesn't even look like the architect designed, right? It doesn't even look like that blueprint anymore. And so it's like going, oh, wait a minute. This deconditioning process, this deprogramming process is like, okay, what's it going to take for me to shift back into alignment to my original blueprint, right? Because from that space, and it's not about the thing is, from that space, we can evolve in a aligned way. It's all about our geometry moving through life. And this is the other analogy too. It's like taking those kids' toys where like you can pound in like a square or a triangle or something like that in those things. It's like there's a square, right? And we're trying to put a triangle through this square and it's not going through. And then we're like, God dang it, just get in there, and then we meet resistance. It's the same thing. We do this in life. So we're walking around as a triangle and we're supposed to be a square. And we're like, why isn't my life working out for me right now? Why don't I feel loved? Why don't I feel good? I hate my life. I hate my job. I wake up on Monday and I dread Monday through Friday and I live for the weekend and I drink too much and I escape my life too much because I don't like my life. I don't like how it's been because you're freaking triangle trying to, you're supposed to be a square and you're trying to pound this life into this place that doesn't fit. So it's all about your geometry, And so when we go, oh, okay, so what do I need to do? What do I need to let go of so that I can be the square? And then when we start to do that, we're like, oh, life doesn't have to be like so full of resistance anymore. Oh, gosh, that friendship that I was in. Oh, that just, why am I even in that friendship? Right? Like, why am I in this, so it's a constant like process of asking ourselves these questions, of why am I here right now? Why am I doing this? Why am I speaking this? Right? Why am I, coming from this space? And this is a deconditioning process. It's being completely aware of ourselves. And then when we do something silly, we go back to being a triangle, right? When we know we're to be a square, then we can just laugh at ourselves. And because that's it. It's like not taking ourselves so serious. Like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm meeting resistance because, I'm frustrated as a generator, right? I feel bitter right now as a projector, right? I feel so disappointed, I'm a reflector, right? Or I feel angry, as a manifestor. Oh, was I trying to be that triangle again? Oh, that's right. Yep. I did this, or I did do this. And that's right. All right. Let me get back into my original, design here, my original geometry so that I can move through life with more ease. And, but oftentimes though, I tell people, when I do readings and stuff, I'm like, this is where the rubber meets the road though, because if we don't know our design until we're 30 or until we're 40 or 45 or 50 or 70 sometimes. Think about all the not self decisions that we've made up until that point. That now we have to go back and shift a lot of things. And it can be so painful in that process of shifting back into that square that you were designed to be, or whatever shape you're designed to be, whatever type you are. And this is where I see a lot of people also though, too, like they get scared and they're like, oh, I've been in this marriage for so long. I know it's not correct, but we've got, all this stuff. I can't change. I can't do it, or this job. What do I do without, so then fear creeps in. Right. And then we don't make those changes and then we keep going along this road, but then we know we're like, oh gosh, what if I would have just done this or this or this? And so, I know this is kind of somber what I'm bringing up right now, but it's the reality of what it is. When we start to realize our design, then we have to make those changes. It's where the rubber meets the road. And we're like, do I want to live this out now or not? And it's our choice. We don't have to. That's the thing.
No.
This is not a religion. There's no dogma about this. There's no have to, need to, whatever. But do I want to? Do I desire to? Because I'm just being real. Like, it's not going to be easy the first, when you start making these choices, but at the end, when you start seeing yourself then as your original design, who you were actually meant to be and giving yourself permission to be in that place. Oh my gosh, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it, but it's a hard road to get there, especially if you wait until, half your life to actually like understand who you are, so. Yeah,
that's so true. I really think, and I was just going to say that this whole journey, it's not easy, and maybe feeling sorry for yourself is also not something that I would recommend anyway, when you come across something like this, because there's going to be so many harsh questions. You might find that some things that you are currently in, maybe you can see how misaligned they are. And yes, exactly, these kind of dilemmas come, am I going to cut and run and just, be myself, or am I going to work through this lesson of acceptance maybe, or yeah, and it's your
Yeah.
choice. There is no right or wrong.
No.
You can actually achieve alignment whatever you choose, but it might be a little bit, might require more effort on your behalf as well. Sometimes I see, especially in a lot of human design groups, unfortunately I'm leaving a lot of those groups because I see that victim mindset where people are like, oh, I'm this and I'm not supposed to be that, or I'm a projector, I have to sit and wait for the invitation.
Yes.
How do I boost my invitations? I just saw a conversation list. How do I boost it? And we were like, what do you mean boost your invitations? Well, how do I boost my invitation for a magic life? What do I do meanwhile? Shall I go for a massage? And it just doesn't make any sense, because it's not about, yeah, of course you can go and get as many massages as you want, but just go do whatever you want. But it's like there's other things as well. You have all the cards. You have
Yes.
not been dealt a bad hand. You have the hand you're meant to have, and not in a way it's going to be better or worse than anybody else's. In fact, it's probably the most perfect one for you, if only
Absolutely.
you learn to see it.
Yes. We want what we're not, and even Ross
Yes.
says that too, right? And that's why we get into these relationships, right? So even if you look at your gates, right? Like if I have the 36, right? So I see so many of my clients and so many people in my life, they have the 35. It's like, oh, those gates are reaching out for the other one, right? To complete it. We want we generally are attracted to people who have defined centers where we're undefined, right? Or gates, things like that. So we generally, this is our human nature, but it's like realizing that, right? And then laughing at ourselves and going, oh my gosh, okay, but now how can I come back to me? How can I come back to being my original design, the way the architect, the way God, spirit, whatever we want to say, designed me. And if I don't find out until I'm 30, 40, 50 years old, my design, and I realize I've made all these decisions that actually aren't aligned really to my original design, am I courageous enough to go and shift these back so that I can shift into my original, geometry? It takes a lot of courage to live out your design. It really does, because this is about individuating. Like this is the individuation process that Carl Jung even talks about. I mean, this is about being ourselves. This is about stepping out of status quo, stepping out of, all the programming that everybody says, you should do this, and actually being you. And there's no greater, that's freedom. We have this talk right now in this world about freedom, and that is freedom when we can allow ourselves to say, nope, not because any authority is saying yes or no or whatever. It's not about any external authority. It's about, this is what's correct for me. And I know that, and I'm confident in that, and doing that.
I love that. And I think this is the perfect note for us to wrap up this podcast. I absolutely love this whole thing about being yourself, as in just deciding for yourself. As you just said, you used my favorite word of 2020 to 2022, correct. Is this correct for me? And you feel it in your body. It's not something that you don't need to be like all of a sudden, Dalai Lama for actually experiencing this. You don't need to go through years and years of meditations to experience this. You just need to be aware of how this is happening for you, which human design gives you all those cues. And then make that empowered decision, whatever it is, as long as it's correct for you.
Yep.
Erin, thank you. Yes. Thank you so much for being my lovely guest today. Where can people find you and follow you?
Yeah. So right now, just my website, it's erin@erinesser.com. And you can find me there. You can find me on Facebook as well, too. I'm just Erin Esser. On Facebook, there's no names other than just my name. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Erin Elizabeth Esser, or my website, erinesser.com. I think I gave my email that first thing. Anyway, it's erinesser.com is my website. So yeah, find me there, and reach out.
Perfect. Well, I actually follow you on Facebook, and I absolutely love your post. I think I might have you on See First. I really, really enjoy. You give so much value that it's education in itself just to follow your public posts. Guys, Erin Esser, and thank you again. And I will see you in the next episode of Visibility by Design.